and welcome to episode 5 of the Crimson Stitchery, a video channel about making all things that are beautiful and useful. My name is Anushka and I'm coming to you as usual from my living room where I live in London. And I'm really excited that this is the video which marks my 1,000 YouTube subscribers giveaway, a milestone. So thank you very much for joining me. In this episode I'll chat to you about a little bit of knitting. I've got a finished object, I've got some half finished objects, got some mending, and then I'll do the giveaway at the end of the episode, so do keep watching in order to find out what the rules are and how to participate in that. Knitting! I'm really excited because finally I can show off this finished object, which is this sweater that I'm wearing. This is a jumper that I've been knitting for the last few months. I think I cast on in, I think it was back in January. I remember being at a conference and being quite tired, in the first lecture of the day and knitting away on it, and everyone at the conference was really excited to see me knitting, so that was fun. And yeah, here it is. It's called Garland. And the pattern is again from a back issue of Pom Pom Quarterly. So it's the cover sweater that you can see here. And this is issue number 7, winter 2013. And this again is this is the same issue that my Aureus cardigan was knitted in, that you will have seen in episode 1, the fuchsia pink cardi. So this magazine, it's a few years old now, and it's one that I had an article published in, haha. And I'm glad that I finally made this jumper because it's been on my to knit list for quite a long time. So the main difference here is that the jumper on the model is really, really cropped, and it actually comes up to here. It comes up to about the bottom of my rib cage. And I really love a cropped silhouette. I love wearing, you know, short little tops, jumpers and cardis because most of my trousers, most of my trousers are high-waisted. So that normally works out quite well for me. And I did originally knit this jumper to the length specified in the pattern. But when I tried it on, it just looked ridiculous. I really couldn't pull it off at all. It was just too short. The issues with the jumper were also to do with the silhouette shape and construction, so the pattern cutting, if you like. It's one of these dropped shoulder and oversized kind of garments, and there's very minimal shaping that's written into the pattern, which is primarily, you know, tubes for the arms and rectangle for the body with a little bit of shoulder shaping, so sort of maybe trapezoid or rhombus. My geometry is a bit rusty. And I was quite aware of this going into the knitting pattern, and even from the outset I made quite a lot of adjustments. I added a little bit of short row shaping in the front by the hem and more on the back to make up for the fact that although it's fun to have, you know, it's fun to make clothing with geometric shapes, but at the end of the day, the body is a 3D form which is not symmetrical in any way and isn't even at all, you know, whether from right to left or from front to back, our weight is distributed differently across the body. So I've noticed that a lot of knitting patterns write the front and the back of the bodice in exactly the same way with very little difference, and that's not really appropriate actually for getting an excellent fit in knitting. So already I, you know, added short row shaping because when you look at some finished objects of this garment on Ravelry, what you notice quite a lot, and you see it here as well actually, it's that the front line of the bottom hem isn't actually a straight line. It's actually a curve, like a bridge, you know, it's going up in the middle. And that's due to the weight distribution of not just females, of everybody, because our torso isn't flat, because of the, you know, different shapes of our body coming forward, the fabric will also come forward, and as a result, subsequently the bottom will rise, which is why you've got that curved shape at the top. So in order to deal with that, I added extra short row shaping. So when you do the knitting, it looks like it's bending, you know, that way around. But actually, when you put the garment on and it lifts out, it kind of it compensates for itself, and it becomes the illusion of a straight line upon the body. Yeah, so I did that, but after I tried it on, it just looked absolutely ridiculous, and I spent quite a long time fussing with the garment, trying to make it sit right, chatting to my partner and my friends about whether or not I could get away with it, and I just thought, no, it's really rubbish, I can't. So luckily for me, I attend 2 different knitting groups. There's a bit of crossover with attendance for my knitting groups. Hello ladies, if you're watching, you know who you are. And my friend Ellie Skeindeer said that she quite enjoyed grafting, so we decided that we would do a skill swap. And so what we did was, I had my stupid, you know, miniature jumper. I cut it up along the arms, you know, I unravelled it and ended up with 2 pieces. Then I knitted lots of extra length on the bottom piece. And then I gave it to Ellie. And she, in return, gave me some mattress stitching, because I've got absolutely no problem doing mattress stitch at all. And that's how she feels about grafting. So it was fabulous to do a skills swap with a friend. And then, yeah, it kind of lived at her house for a little while. The jumper actually made a cameo appearance on an episode of her podcast, which made me laugh quite a lot. And then now I've got it back. So yeah, the thing about Garland, it's got this fold over ribbing on this turtleneck, and the ribbing's matched on the sleeve, and also the main feature of it is this lace, which is kind of, it's sort of like a flower or a garland or a wreath. It's kind of this round shape here, but it's pretty subtle. And you've got it here as well, the same lace, which is a really nice feature and detail of it. Originally it's knit in a mohair and silk blend at a very loose, airy and open gauge, and I knew that buying mohair and silk yarn at this stage was completely unfeasible for me, and it was out of my budget. So what I used instead was this yarn, which is Holst Super Soft. That's really, really affordable. It's really cheap. It was, I think it was less than £3 per 50 gram ball, and there are 287 meters per 50 gram ball. So you get loads and loads of yardage. And the reason that it's so cheap is because you buy it directly from the manufacturers. So it cuts out all of the middlemen and all of the, you know, extra costs that go with that. So it's a very fine 2-ply woolen spun 100% wool yarn. This garment therefore cost me about £12 to knit in 100% wool, which I think is amazing. And I knit it at quite a loose gauge, and when you purchase the yarn, it still has all of the spinning oil in it because it's come straight from the factory, and it's quite, so in a sense it's not that it's minimally processed, but it's removed some of those extra stages in the chain. So you have to hand wash it yourself to get the oil out, and then after that the fabric blooms up and fuzzes up really nicely. So in that sense it was quite suitable as a substitution for silk mohair blend. And I'm really happy with the jumper. It's really loose, it's comfortable, it goes well with leggings. Doesn't look so good with dresses. I sort of end up looking like a bit of a sack, but I like to wear leggings anyway. And it's really light, you kind of throw it on and you sort of almost forget that you're wearing it. So it's quite a fun piece to have, and I like the fact that it's got quite a different silhouette from most of the other garments in my wardrobe, and that was an aim of mine over the last sort of 6 months or so, to try out some different silhouettes. So as well as this, I've also got 2 half finished objects, which are socks. So again, on my trusty piece of cardboard, here is a red brick sock. And this is something that I've been working on for the last few episodes. So I've got that one, and then I've also got this one in red that you did see last time. There we go. And this one, as you can see, they're knit in 2 different gauges with 2 different weights of yarn, and the effect that is produced is similar but different. So this rust coloured one is knit out of a normal 4-ply / fingering weight sock yarn, and this one is knit out of a heavier sport weight light DK sock yarn, because after taking the advice of everybody who left me a comment, I've decided to make this pattern available in 2 different weights of yarn. And the reason that it's taking me a little while to get this pattern up and out there, well, firstly, it's because I'm being a bit of a perfectionist and I want it to be really good for everybody. My friend Nomi, hello Nomi, is also test knitting this for me. But the reason that it's taken me so long, aside from, you know, my innate perfectionism, is because I decided to write this pattern in different ways of knitting. So I knit it cuff down originally, then I knit it toe up as well, so it would be available in 2 different weights and 2 different directions of knitting. So in order to test out my pattern, I've got to knit 1 more sock that's toe up on the fingering weight, and then I myself will have knit through everything that I've written down, and then we can work on getting it out there. But I've decided that I'm going to try and aim for the 18th of April to get this pattern ready. I will mention it again in the future, and I will do a little small video, I think, when the pattern's released. But I'm aiming for the 18th of April, which is a bank holiday weekend here in the UK. And I think that will be really fun to allow people who might have a bit of time, maybe at home or some time off work, or maybe taking a trip and travelling, to have a go at casting on this pattern over Easter weekend. Yeah. Okay, on to mending. So I've got 2 different things to share with you today. The first thing is staying on the theme of socks. So this is a very old pair of socks that I knitted ages ago, and it's knit out of 100% merino sock yarn, which it was a really bad idea, and because it's too soft and beautiful basically. So essentially, because the socks are knit out of 100% merino wool, they just wore out really quickly. They just turned into a mass of holes, a mass and a mess of holes, and a mash of holes too. And I was kind of aware of this when I knit them, which was well over 10 years ago that I knit these. But I think I was a little bit confused and also a bit swayed by the hype, because I saw that there were yarns that were 100% merino available on the market that were described as sock yarn. And I also read of people, you know, when blogs were big in knitting, I read of people using that, and also in some sock patterns they were recommending 100% merino, which now, you know, 10 years later, I am confident enough to not believe the hype and go with what I know is the best option. And that's, I would never ever again knit socks in 100% merino yarn, because it was a waste of time. And actually I actually ended up knitting 2 pairs of socks, so this one and another one in 100% merino yarn, and neither of them held up. Neither of them have held up. So that was my own, you know, lack of confidence and belief in my knowledge of fibres, of materials and techniques and production. And so I'm really happy to say that now I've got loads more confidence in it, and it's something that I'm really hoping to inspire you as well through these videos, like really encouraging people to scrutinise what are the materials, what are their properties and characteristics, what do we know, what knowledge can we bring to our knitting, you know, how can we educate ourselves around textiles and fibres most widely, and yeah, don't necessarily believe in the hype, question everything, I think. So as you can see, I've already cut out and knit brand new heels in these socks a little while back, and I've done loads of patching and darning on them already. So you can see a big load of darning on the ball of the foot. So I did loads of stuff probably about 6 months ago, and then I decided to retire them and keep them as bed socks. And even just the act of wearing them around my flat in my slippers still has meant that the socks have taken on some wear and they've continued to deteriorate. So recently I decided to knit a little patch on this ball of the foot. So on one ball of the foot I've got a darned patch, and on this one I've got a little knitted patch. So the knitted patch is much better because it's stretchy, whereas the darned patch, this one here, is not, can you see that I'm pulling it and it's not really moving, like the actual darning is not moving, it's inflexible. But the knitted patch, woo, is pretty good really. So yeah, that's my little footy patch. It's a shame because I think that these socks are fabulous. I love the colour, I love the stitch pattern, but they're very fragile at this stage and I want to keep wearing them. You know, I don't want to retire them, I don't want to throw them away, I want to carry on enjoying them, and it's just meaning that I think eventually I think eventually I'm going to have knitted a patch over the whole bottom of the sole. But you know, the cuffs, let me bring that back, the cuffs are totally glorious. And this was knit from a free pattern from Knitty by Cookie A, the fabulous sock designer. And I will put links to everything that I mention in the down box of the YouTube video. Tea towel watch. Thanks for all your tea towel love. It's kind of become something that I've really had my eye out on recently after the long chat about tea towel pricings, tea towel strata hierarchies, and so on. I started seeing them everywhere, you know. It's like once you start noticing it, and on a complete, like, real range of prices and qualities. So maybe that's something that I'll discuss with you in the future. But yeah, a tea towel watch is definitely a thing. So here's another tea towel of mine. Oh, it's a bit big to open out. Again, this is an old tea towel. I didn't purchase it new. I got it out of the linen cupboard of my grandmother when I was helping her tidy up and when I was moving house. I needed one. She had too many. It was a match made in heaven. So this is a tea towel which I recently over-dyed using avocado stones. And as you can see, it's come out this gorgeous dusty pink rose colour. So that's really cool. So I will say that the tea towel didn't start off white. It started off pale pink, but more like a baby pink. And it was extremely stained. So it was faded. The pink had faded to like that horrible colour that, you know, hospital walls sometimes are. And it was really stained with tea, literally. So it was like pink and brown and blotchy all over. So I decided to over-dye it using avocado stones. I only had 2 stones at the time, and I boiled the stones and allowed the dye vat to sit for 12 hours. It's that overnight, so maybe longer, maybe more like 15 hours. And then the next day I put the tea towel in and allowed it to soak for another 12 hours. So it was going for quite a long time. Then hand washed it all out and it came out a much nicer colour. It's toned down the contrast between the stain and the cloth, so that's worked out pretty well, and it was quite a nice thing to do. I've been wanting to try avocado stone dyeing for absolutely ages. I spent 2018 collecting avocado stones and I put them all in the freezer to preserve them until I got the chance to dye. I must have collected about 50 stones at least, all in a plastic bag in the freezer. And then we moved house and we did not take the stones with us, so some old flatmates from last year, who knows what they thought of all of that. Conversational threads. So before I get to the giveaway, there's just a few more things that I want to touch upon. So firstly is more Burgundy, the vintage Shetland spring cowl. So if you haven't watched episode number 4, last week's episode, well, do click over it and check it out. But in that episode I talk about my plans for the upcoming vintage Shetland spring cowl. In the cowl we're going to be knitting a project from this book, which is the Vintage Shetland Project by Susan Crawford. The Knitalong will officially run from the 1st of April till the 1st of September, because this is from spring in the Northern Hemisphere all the way across to spring in the Southern Hemisphere. I have had some viewers comment saying that they who live in the Southern Hemisphere, who live in Australasia, and who have had a bit of difficulty getting hold of the book because of the shipping costs. The only thing I can suggest to look into is there any possibility, if you're part of a knitting group, if more than one person orders the book, would it be cheaper? I've got no idea. You know, to combine shipping, it is really heavy, so it might be that I don't know whether it will go in like a one-size-fits-all kind of price, or if it will go by weight and how it affects the threshold. I do apologise if you find that this is not accessible for you at this time. It's something that I was really aware of, which is why in my last video I made some suggestions in terms of how you might be able to get your hands on this book. But yeah, don't give up. Keep talking to people, talk to your friends, you know, see you might be able to make it work. I think a really big part of knitting for me has been community and friendships that have grown up around this, both online but actually more significantly in real life. And this is something that I will definitely speak more on in the future. So I've opened a thread in the Ravelry group for the Crimson Stitchery, where I just outline a few pointers. You can join on in this knit along on Instagram by using the hashtag Vintage Shetland Spring Cowl, but do also go along to the Ravelry group for the Crimson Stitchery and join in there. I'd love to see what you're going to be up to. The second thing that I want to bring up in conversational threads is Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So as has been established quite clearly, I did not go. I went 6 years ago, and interestingly I still have the yarn that I purchased 6 years ago because I've still not managed to knit it up, and this is it here. You can see I've got a love for jade green and foliage, and you know, this one's called Garland. Here I've got my hyacinth bulb shooting out. I think I really love both shades of reddish pink, hence, you know, crimson, but also green, teal, jade, aqua, turquoise. And wearing this jumper, it really makes me feel like I'm, you know, communing with nature. So anyway, back to this. Actually, interestingly, I bought this from Susan Crawford at the first Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And that was really fabulous because I had done some work with Susan Crawford online. I had written some patterns for her, and it was really amazing to meet her in person. And I bought this, which is this hand-dyed lace weight alpaca and silk yarn. It's got this really interesting depth to the colour. It's got this sheen and shine, and I've never knitted anything from it. So actually, when I purchased this yarn, this Holst, originally, I intended to hold it double with the alpaca silk and knit one of the jumpers, such as, you know, the Magnolia by Camilla Vud, or something else that had the mohair silk and wool dual stranding. And I did a swatch, which is here, and I ended up really hating the swatch because it just ended up too mild. I think the colours didn't blend together enough, and there was too much contrast between the two shades that you can kind of see across this swatch. So I abandoned that idea. I used the Holst on its own to make this jumper, and this yarn is still in my stash. I originally bought this yarn intending to make a lace weight Shetland shawl, like one of those all over delicate lace patterns, but I've just accepted that that is absolutely never going to happen. So let me know what you think I could make with some lace weight yarn in the comments. What do you reckon? There are a few lace weight open lacy things from the Vintage Shetland project. I think there's a long sleeve cardi. I think the issue that I've been having is that aside from shawls, many lace weight patterns are for camisoles and kind of t-shirts and short sleeve things, but this is alpaca, I think it's alpaca wool and silk, so basically this is a warm yarn and it's just no point wearing a lacy camisole that's made of wool. Like that's, I mean, I might wear it like as a vest, as an undergarment, but I think it would be a shame for it to be underneath clothing because the yarn is so stunning. But I'm a bit at a loss as to what to make as a kind of functional and warm garment with yarn that's so thin, and that I'm quite intimidated by, to be honest with you, by the gauge and all of that. So if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. Or if it's not been a garment, what have you used laced weight yarn for? Is it shawl? Or is there something else that I could make that I've totally overlooked? I'd love to know what you think. So I'm really glad to announce that I'm going to be having a prize draw and a giveaway for the milestone of 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So firstly, a very big thank you to everybody here who has subscribed. I have been really enjoying this YouTube video making journey as a new stage into my knitty journey, and it's been so fabulous to have so many warm and encouraging and lovely people interact with me here on YouTube, but also over on the Instagram, and now that I've made a Ravelry group, that's been totally fabulous. So I'm really happy to be announcing a prize draw for you. For this prize draw there will be 2 prizes. So the first prize is this little project bag that's been gifted to the podcast from Conchita, who's got a brand on Etsy called Butternut Handmade, and I will link to her shop below if you're in the market for a new project bag. It's this lovely little drawstring number. And it's the perfect size, you know, for a pair of socks or something like that. That would fit inside really nicely and a ball of yarn. And following the theme of Crimson Stitchery very nicely, it's covered in this gorgeous illustration of roses and peonies. Roses and peonies are on this fabric. So a little drawstring project bag from Butternut Handmade. That's the first prize. The second prize is a digital prize. What it is that my friend Ellie's Skeindeer Knits has donated a copy of her shawl pattern to the podcast, and it's called Lysning. And if you haven't seen it already, it's a lovely big wraparound lace shawl, and she's knitted the pattern sample in this glorious buttercup yellow, and I'm really delighted to be able to offer that to you as one of the prizes. So that's 2 prizes there. What I will also be doing to complement prize number 1 of the project bag and prize number 2 of the shawl pattern is I will also be writing and sending you a postcard. So everybody that wins will have something in the post for them to enjoy as well. So I will personally write and send you a postcard, which I hope that you'll enjoy. I'm really excited to do that myself. So the way to enter the giveaway is very simple. Firstly, make sure that you're a subscriber here on YouTube. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button just below this video, just go ahead and hit that now. So subscribe on YouTube, then go across to Ravelry and find the Ravelry group. I will have a link to that in the down box of the video of this video now. If you just click on that little arrow that's pointing down, I'll have all of the links to everything there. So subscribe on YouTube, go across to Ravelry, join the Ravelry group, and then write a comment in the Ravelry giveaway thread. So to enter the giveaway, you shouldn't write a comment on YouTube, do the giveaway on Ravelry. Subscribe on YouTube, go and join the Ravelry group, write a comment in the Ravelry group thread, the giveaway thread. And the question that I'd love you to answer for this giveaway is, what is your favourite thing to knit? Is it socks? Is it shawls? Is it sweaters? Feel free to go into as much detail as you'd like to. You know, is it caftan socks only? Is it things with lace? Is it things with cables? Is it certain types of construction? Just let me know what your favourite thing to knit is at the moment, because I think that's a really fun discussion to have, and I'd really love to know a little bit more about your knitting, even as you're learning so much about what I've been knitting. So I'd love to make this, you know, a bit more circular in that sense. So yeah, just subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Ravelry. If you have an Instagram account, it would be fabulous if you wanted to follow me over on Instagram too. So my username on Instagram and Ravelry is asourtelling. That's asourtelling. But I know that not everybody has Instagram or likes it, so you know, if that's not your cup of tea, don't worry. But we can get things going here on YouTube and also on Ravelry too. That'll be really fun. So yeah, for a chance to win a project bag, a shawl pattern, or have me write you a postcard, those are the rules. The giveaway thread will be open for 2 weeks from today. So I've been looking into different types of video formats here on YouTube as well, and I'm thinking that it might be nice to intersperse these longer podcast episodes with some shorter YouTube videos. So let me know if you think that that's something that would interest you. Would you like to see more regular uploads from me if some of those were shorter as well as the longer ones? I can't commit to doing the long podcast episodes every week because I just literally wouldn't have enough to talk about. But I'm enjoying interacting with you guys so much that I think it might be really fun to make this a little bit more regular. So let me know what you think. That's everything for today. Thank you so much for joining me once again over on here on the Crimson Stitchery. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. And if you have any ideas on what I should use my lace weight yarn for, please write me a comment down below. I've been scratching my head about it so much and I'm out of ideas. So yeah, giveaway lace weight yarn, and don't forget about the vintage Shetland spring cal. Let me know what you think about having more regular videos, maybe some that are shorter, or if you've got any suggestions for what kind of content you'd like to see here on YouTube too, do just let me know down in the comments. The next episode of the Crimson Stitchery is going to be a special episode. It's something that I've been working on for a little while and I'm really, really excited about sharing it with you. So the next week's episode will be a special, and then there'll be another podcast episode the week after that. So until then, thank you so much for watching and happy knitting.